Ooh, colors, man. And welcome back to Save My EU. As you might be able to guess, I just came from a cosplay event. I was doing a voluntary show for children about cosplay with a friend, and I figured why change immediately, because this allows me to make a good point. Actually, 3 points. Don't take everything too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. Sometimes have fun. You're never too old to play. You're never too old to try something new. And if there's some fun to be had to clear your head, do it. I mean, theater is ages old. A very nice, interesting European invention. And this is one way of doing it. And if it makes someone happy, if it makes you happy, that's fine. It doesn't have to be serious. But the most key point there is, don't take me too seriously. Because I only have opinions. I don't have the facts or the truths, just opinions. Mine and yours are equally valuable. Unfortunately, the subjects that I have to go into are not as fun and colorful. A lot of discussion was raised on religion, and in talks after my previous episode, there was a lot of raised subjects, both in discussions and due to unfortunate news in the media about honor violence. We need to take a little bit look into that. And as early voting is beginning in the elections, it's also time to give some voting tips. I'm not going to drop names and party names, but I am going to toss some ideas and some ways on how to figure out who to vote for if you really don't have the time to get into it deeply. That in mind, I think I could use my original hair for a while. Let's see where we go today. There we go. Okay, so back onto religion and some more matters that are a little bit too important to be ignored. Honor violence. A very serious problem, partly to do with religion, but unfortunately not handled very well. I mentioned last time that sometimes religion is a problem for a person. We've well, I believe in every EU country, we've read very sad stories from near and far about so-called honor violence. Of course, there's nothing honorable about it, but it is accepted among scholars that we should use the term honor violence because a sense of honor plays a part in why that violence happens. So we shall use the term that way, but we shall be careful about it. And so when it comes from religion, very often it is important to say that, well, religion had nothing to do with it, or religion teaches this and that. Again, Islam, Christianity, whatever, it does not matter. The point is that we should not ignore religion as a cause. Part cause, all cause, in any case, need to be more careful, and we need to be able to see if religion is hurting a person. Give that person a possibility to just let go of it. Okay. I did some studying here. Again, thank you very much for Wikipedia. And some quotes I'm going to toss here. Majority of honor killings are committed by first-generation immigrants against later generations to become them from becoming westernized. Now, this is something we've read, and of course, it does not mean that this is a problem with all immigrants, but there are some cases where I would say that people need to get accustomed to the country where they're in and the culture. If that process fails, then we might have these kinds of problems. Now, I have a rule about this myself and about integration. This is how it goes. You need the potential, first of all. People need to have the feeling that they want to integrate. There need to be the possibilities for it. That was actually the second point here, the methods. The country needs to provide methods, a way for the people to integrate, that it has a way of flowing. It can happen. not about you have to give up everything overnight. Racism is very, 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 very bad. It really stops integration. We've seen it. Basically, extreme forces create extreme forces. When there's extreme racism towards some immigrant groups, then these immigrant groups will also tend to go for the more aggressive and extreme interpretations of their culture and religion and such. So we have to understand that there's a risk. We need to show a way. However, there needs to be reason. That is the end part here. I need to, okay, if I had a better hand, I would have circled reason better, but that is the point. People will change when there is cause for it. But without that cause, without that reason, it will not happen. I emphasize this again. The potential, the methods, and the reason. If, let's say, an immigrant could also be someone escaping a difficult religion, something very homemade here. There has to be a reason. There has to be a gain. Okay, I will integrate. I will alternate my methods. I will move in with the flow of the society around me. What will I gain from it? What will I lose from it? And if integration doesn't provide sufficient enough reason, if it does not improve your financial standing, for example, if it does not improve your situation in society in any way, then there is no reason to integrate. If we offer more and more services on how to keep with your old traditions, even when they contradict with Western law, if we just offer support for that, but no support for changing, integrating, it doesn't work. Actually, European history provides a very interesting story, because when religion, Christianity, came into various countries all around, it didn't really work out when forced, but when they adapted old tradition, pagan traditions, and gave them Christian context, Christian names, then people started buying into them. There was a very good method, and then there was reason. Of course, back at the time, it was pretty much you had to be with the church. That was social pressure. That was state pressure. But it adapted. Adaptation is something that we humans are very good at, and we just need to let it happen. And there's potential, but we have to continuously work for it. And if all of these don't happen, integration doesn't happen. And I'm sorry to say, but integration with religions does not seem to happen right now. We need to give reasons for people to adapt. I'm going to leave that out there for thinking. And since honor violence is what we're in, it's important to remember also another part. Now, it's very easy to find honor killings that do not come from immigration. Honor-based violence within the indigenous populations. This mentioned Albania, Chechnya, Italy, Greece. You can find these in any country. This was an interesting study from a network that studied honor violence. Very good work. But it has happened everywhere. We are not innocent. We understand the problem. We have it close by. But that doesn't mean that it isn't a problem when it comes from outside. We don't need more honor violence. We don't need more violence of any kind. But a lot of public figures, police officers, are saying that we had no idea how big this problem was. We had no idea this happened. A lot of readers and commentators on newspaper websites and journalists are saying that they were surprised about this. No, you cannot be surprised. This is an old problem within and without. Don't be surprised at anything else except the fact that you have not taken this problem seriously. It needs to be taken seriously, and whatever the causes behind it, investigate the causes. Don't let anyone or anything off the hook. If religion plays a part, look into that religion. Help people out of that religion, if that's the right way. Remember, freedom of religion, freedom of choosing no religion. And this brings up a point. Culture versus religion. Now that's the question. It's often said, and there was a very good blog comment discussion on a Finnish blog site about this. There were actually multiple blogs written about it, and I looked at all of the conversations, some English ones too elsewhere, and there's a lot of fight that, no, that's not a religious thing, that's a cultural thing. And, okay, culture is religion, religion is culture. You cannot very easily figure out where one stops, one starts. And like I said, in countries there is culture, there's religion, could be multiple religions, but it's never a bridge it's never a stream that's never crossed. Sometimes you only have a few wooden planks to cross that border between culture and religion. Sometimes it's a huge interstate highway there. So sometimes an autobahn goes over that very small river where religion and culture cross. So it doesn't matter. That was pretty much the second point. Do these titles even matter? Why is it so important that we say, no, 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 that's not religion, that's culture. No, 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 that's not culture, that's religion. They're pretty much the same thing. And just trying to put titles on them is a way of confusing, which brings me to my third point about this matter. Who has something to gain from this? And that religion can be a big business. They have a lot to gain when they're making a complex argument, saying that, no, 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 this is a culture thing. We don't have anything to do with it. Who gains? Because someone gains. I really need better handwriting skills, but unfortunately, it is not one where I'm very good at. Someone has something to gain from this fight, culture versus religion. Look into that, follow the money. Unfortunately, there can be some sad results. And about integration and such, I'm going to take to my last point on religion here today. Euro-Islam. Okay, Wikipedia, not to be confused with Islam and Europe. I mean, I understand the point they're saying, that don't confuse this with another article, but seriously, let's, because this is Wikipedia, without trying, actually made the point for us, because Euro-Islam, it's European Islam, it's interpreted in many ways, but basically it's the idea that Islam should see reformation and become more intertwined with certain Western values and eliminate the parts of religion that don't really integrate well. This is something we've seen in Christianity as well, of course, and in other religions, but I'm confused about the small amount of support that this movement has, because now I've read a lot of Euro-Islam speakers, what they say, what they write. Of course, sometimes it's a little bit off to the deep end, but there's a lot of wisdom in many of those opinions. They're very down to earth. They have very concrete suggestions, which sound very good, at least to me, because they seem like, let's put emphasis and value on our traditions. Let's understand where we came from. Let's follow the good traditions we have. Let's adjust them, and let's understand the religious texts in context. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Religious scholars who study in universities very heavily work on understanding the context, the time, the reasons. Why was this written? What happened at the time? Who said what? Who was ruling which country at the time? And understanding this context will make religion more important, because you can conceive not just the text blindly, not just one-dimensionally, but what it's about, why it was written, and how should we understand it in each time. Right now we understand that gender should not limit anyone's possibilities in career, for example. We can bring that to religion. And I honestly believe we should listen more to these kinds of opinions and support them. As it is, every time we put, say, 999 euros for very traditional Islam, we put maybe €1 into European Islam and Reformation. We should support them more because it comes from within. It comes from Islamic scholars, people that have at least a high possibility of gaining respect in that religion. We should support them. We should make dialogue with them. We should perhaps even promote them a little bit. Because I think every religion has the potential to adapt to any time, any situations. It's a constant process. We see that constantly with our Christianity, how it has to deal with new issues, say like same-sex marriage. It's an ongoing debate, but it's a good sign that the debate goes on. We should never just stop and say that, okay, well, this religion has not had women as leading characters ever before. Well, they cannot have them now. No, we don't need to stop. We need to keep talking. Religion doesn't stop. Religion should always move on and find new challenges. When it stops and only reads line by line, word by word, the old texts, that's when we're in trouble. But that's all I had for religion and these thoughts, and I wish great luck to everyone studying and furthering their understanding in religion, because, well, that job is never over. Good luck with that. And with that, on to my other point of the day. What to vote for. This is not who to vote for at this point, but I've put out a few pointers, some things I look for in a potential candidate. Feel free to use some or none of these ideas, but I want to put out some thoughts because I think just figuring out why is this person good. I know I like this person, this candidate. Now let's figure out why. What are the reasons? But I'd like to put some like good features of character and good questions, good thoughts, good attributes. Now, some of these are a little bit contradictory, and I mean, I'm not looking for 5 stars in each of these, but these are things I like to ask myself, and thus find out a way to figure out which candidate to vote for. And just for the record, I have not chosen who to vote for yet, so even I could not give you a name, even if I wanted to, and I certainly don't want to take anyone's right to choose their favorite candidate. Okay, let's look at some of these. The ability to say no and I don't know. I mean, I love the scientific method. It's very, very, very important to know what you do not know. I've said this before. It's a really important part in character, and I want a person who's not afraid to say this. Also, pretty much in the same area, don't preach about issues that you have little knowledge about. This is a case often with people who are very close to lobbyists. Lobbyists will give them pre-recorded sentences, what to say, and they're starting to preach and really speak loudly about a matter that they do not have personal knowledge about. I'm sorry, but there is no candidate that knows everything, fortunately. And this goes on to the next point, which is again a little bit of a continuation, not obviously bought by lobbyists. This is a tough one, but, well, journalism, of course, does a wonderful job in this, but you can also sometimes hear when the exact words the candidates are using are exactly the same as lobbyist organizations use in their campaigns. That can be a worrying sign. And if they're speaking for some idea without any criticism to it, like this is the best thing ever and this is how it has to go, that's a bad sign, because there is no suggestion that doesn't have good and bad sides. Moving on. Part politician, part human. Okay, this is interesting, and obviously You can see it in many ways. What I mean is that personally, I prefer a person that has not been entirely in politics all their life, but also has had other jobs, other occupations. Has it been voluntary work, studying, or whatever kind of work? That depends, but I like the idea that this person has a good view of the political system, but also outside the political system. It's a tough to find balance, but some people manage that better than others, in my opinion. Knowledge of context. It's pretty much what I spoke about with religion, but it applies to many things. Why? The ability to ask why and put things in context, and not just simple answers, but seeing where it comes from and understanding that. That's very important when you want to appeal to people's feelings, yes, but also when you need to realize that some things are not just simply what it looks like on the front. There's a story behind it and reasons that led to it. And especially important that you don't take a single individual case of something bad. It could be a case of violence and just deduct everything from a single case, but know the context, know the reasons, know why things happened or are going to happen. Can name problems directly. This is important. Be it religion, be it populism, be it immigration, be it finances, be it racism. When there is a problem, even if it's a tough subject, something that will get people angry when you name it out loud, say it. Say the name of the problem, not with prejudice, not with hatred, but simple knowledge of facts. Has made mistakes and learned. Again, scientific method, but also very popular in the business world. The ability to learn from mistakes and admit that mistakes were made, because every politician has made mistakes. Every human has made mistakes. So know them, understand them, learn from them, and do not try to hide them. Someone will find out. If not traditional media, then social media. We've had a lot of cases all throughout Europe about people and what they've done in the past, what they've written in the past. Personally, now, I am not a candidate, emphasis on that, but I have been together with projects, marches, speeches with absolute, honest to God, communists. I've been with strong immigration critics. I've been with pirates. I've been with leftists. I've seen all of these, and in some cases, I ended up having opinions that are shot out that were really bad. And I really would not have said that if I had a little bit of something going up here. I've made mistakes. I've spoken about them and learned something, but it's not always a mistake. Now, there's another catch. It's not a mistake to talk with the wrong people. It's good to understand people, even if they are from the absolute odd end of the political spectrum compared to you. It's good to know these people. And I've seen communists, really honest, very red communists, with a very good heart, senses the ability to make good, concrete suggestions that could work. I've seen these also for many, many other populists, be them strong critics of immigration or ultra-liberal market goers, many, many others, or the pirate movement. There's a lot of wisdom there too. There's wisdom and ability in all ends of the political spectrum. These abilities that I've been showing you here from the screen, you can find one, and this does not wave you to the left or right. That is not my intention. But a little bit more. Realizes the difference between criticism and opposition. Okay? That's something I've been trying to go on here. It's one thing to criticize, like I am criticizing the EU because I really quite like the EU. I'm not in opposition, I'm criticizing. it's okay for politicians to criticize matters because that means an involvement. Of course, if you say quotes like, where there's EU, there's the problem, not very good. That's just direct opposition. But when you say this could be done better, if you name problems, that does not mean you want to burn all the bridges around you. So it's good to know this difference. And again, in this matter, speak honestly and name the problems. Name them outright, and make sure to know the difference between hating that thing, being totally against it, and wanting it to work better. Understanding really is quite a good tool. Moving on a little bit more, doesn't oversimplify. There are cases when 0 is 0, like in temperature. But usually there are not very simple answers. I mean, what I'm taking 10, 20, 30 minutes to speak, someone might say in 10 seconds. I don't like oversimplifying. I want to get around the matter, not just the point we see here in the middle, everything around it, what led to it, what it might lead to. I don't like politicians who make things very simple. So tell me the whole story. I will take the time to listen. Not everyone will, I understand. Doesn't shout and isn't rude. You can be strongly critical of things like religion, for example, or certain financial policies. You don't have to shout. You don't have to drop names and say that person is to blame and I wish someone would throw a rock through that person's window. Things like this go around. There is no need to shout. You can use language skillfully, as a scalpel, not as a club. There's no need to shout, no need to blame. In fact, the best politicians often know where to really make poetry with their speeches, make very strong points without making that point angrily. A little bit more. More of what happens, less of what it sounds like. So, image politics is a pretty big thing. I would prefer to look at the real issues, not just the subject heading, so to speak. So, more about what actually happens, what actually causes it, and not just the heading matter, the top subject of discussion, that an immigrant did this or that, or a company did this or that. Again, the whole story. Actually, what happens? What is the end result? Not just the obvious catchphrase of it. And I do believe we have one more here. Sense of humor. That's a good last one to put. I think a sense of humor means intelligence. Of course, again, you don't have to shout and blame, but having a little bit of sense of humor every now and then is very useful. It works in politics if you're not rude. This isn't stand-up. This is comedy. I mean, in stand-up, you can be a little bit rude. Usually you're rude to yourself, like good stand-up comedians are. Politicians can make a little bit of fun jokes about themselves. Let the people smile and laugh a little bit, even when it's a serious matter. Combine that sense of humor with your ability to admit mistakes. That can be a pretty good package. Okay. And then on to my final part here. This is the what I call the quick voting guide. Here we go. This, I'm not going to put it row by row. I'm just going to put it all together. First, you choose a party. Now, all your local parties are part of some Europarliamentary group. And I mix the orders there. Figure out which parties in your country belong to which group. And you might note that I put the Eurosceptics because it seems that they might not have the same group. Okay, I just lost lights here in this room. This will be interesting. Let's continue with less lighting here. It doesn't matter with the show. But anyway, Eurosceptics are forming a new group. of some form. At least they're trying to. Will that happen or not? I don't know yet, but you can probably figure out who are the skeptics. Then there's the ALDE, EPP, Social Democrats, Greens, and of course smaller parties. But let's just look at the primary ones. Get a few keywords here like, okay, I'm interested in environmentalism. Choose someone with the Greens. EPP, I had to look it up. There is actually a thing called liberal conservatism. That was news to me, but that's how it was described. That's your thing, or market economy, federalism, then you know, okay, I'm going to choose EPP. Liberalism, choose someone from ALDE. And the Eurosceptics, of course, there may be cases where they deal with a certain country a little bit off to the east. That's hardly worth mentioning, but that might be a case in some points. Don't buy that. Don't just swallow that without chewing, but that may be a case you want to acknowledge. Choose a party and then choose a candidate. Basically, check out, when you have candidate lists, you'll see that this person used to be your parliamentarian before. This is a carpenter. This is a banker. This is a student. Choose an occupation that reflects on your values and things that are important to you. And that probably gives you a pretty good candidate because it's someone whose work, occupation you can relate to. Now, of course, if you have more time, get to know the candidates, ask them questions, involve them, find out more and more and more. But if you don't have the time, just choose keyword. Okay, there's your party, list of candidates that go for that party in the European Parliament, and figure out someone you can relate to. The 1-minute voting guide is what I call it, because the more people vote, the better. If you really dislike the EU, vote for a really honest-to-God Eurosceptic. Go for it. Show your vote. There is no wrong votes. We'll talk about populism later. That's another issue. But vote for what you feel. And if, at least in most cases, from what I understand voting in European countries, when there's voting day, you need to go to some office, some place, and file a form, vote, then come back home. So why should you vote? I'm going to give you a very good, simple reason on why to vote right now. Because whatever you do afterward, anything feels better after you've accomplished something. Whether it's having a drink, having a bite, watching something on Netflix or maybe the TV, everything feels a little bit better after you've accomplished something. Voting is accomplishing something. Do that and make the rest of your day feel a little bit better in this very simple way. All it takes is writing down a few numbers or checking a few boxes. It's not that much to ask, and you gain from it. Okay, with the end of this voting guide here, I believe I'm going to change and do something about my nails, figure out why I just lost the lighting in my so-called studio. It's actually a little bit kind of funny. I have some directional lights here, you can see, but the big lights, they just went out. I'm not an electrician. I'm into InfoSec, so I'm going to have to look into this. I probably should have stopped recording and just redo this part, but sometimes things happen in life and you have to adapt. All the tips I give here are based on what I've learned so far. And I've learned it actually takes quite a lot of time to study these matters. Fortunately, I still got injured this week, so I cannot make the 2 episodes this week as I promised, so that's what you get for making promises. I apologize. I made a mistake. I will try to get back into the full show next week, especially the EU law bit I've really been wanting to do, but it takes a lot of time. I have a very big book to read about that, and I will try to get it done soon. But with that, thank you for staying awake, listening, and very much thank you for raising these discussions. Even if it's on other medias, I will try to follow whatever I can. There were some very interesting talks. I'm going to actually have to send some greetings to a little-known, horribly scary seaside town of Kotka. I believe someone knows when their name is mentioned. But discussions have been fruitful, and I've learned more. Perhaps some others have also learned more, which means that this studying how to make a vlog, how to build your funny video studio, has been very fruitful so far. Even if there are not many viewers, that doesn't matter. The gains have been enormous. So perhaps YouTube was onto something when they built this platform. Perhaps the EU was onto something when they created this good reason for talking between people across the nations. Thank you, and until next time.